The trust was dead. And good riddance. What happened next? We all celebrated. We were now free to make moving pictures without fear of being hauled in front of a judge or having some goon smash us over the head with a baseball bat. But it also meant there was a big opportunity, and all of us saw a chance to become the king of moving pictures. Laemmle of Universal was no exception. He knew that with the trust gone, hundreds of production companies would sprout up and cut into his market share. So he headed west with a vision for how to stand above everyone else.
Yeah, we've waited for our time to come, calculated everything we've done, we've upgraded. Now you can't outrun a champion. Now you're facing what? We're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights for the glory. For the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory. We do it for the glory.
Laemmle's vision for taking over the motion picture industry was simple. He needed to build a massive film factory, somewhere with cheap land and endless sunshine. So he purchased a square mile of land in California's San Fernando Valley. The nearest town, Hollywood.
Then they could pass through here, through the park.
Laemmle's idea was to build something big. I mean, really big.
Then the studio sets will be in the back. And then we can decide which ones are open to the public.
He wanted to churn out short movies in every genre. He wanted a film factory. Only Laemmle didn't like the word factory. He liked to think of it as a city. He built the most modern moving picture studio in the world and called it Universal City. Over 300 laborers erected sound stages, dressing rooms, 2 restaurants, a post office, and a school. Ever the salesman, Laemmle even invited the public into the studio to watch their favorite pictures being filmed. That logo you've seen before a Universal movie? Yeah, that was Laemmle's idea. He thought it stood for universal entertainment for everyone, regardless of the language you spoke. Though I heard others say it stood for, I'm gonna conquer the world. And he kinda did. By the spring of 1915, war had been raging in Europe for almost a year. All of the major film studios in London, Paris, Rome, Berlin had essentially shut down. But the people needed an escape and wanted moving pictures more than ever. So Laemmle's building of Universal City was perfect. I mean, demand went through the roof.
Yes, I understand. Okay, listen. You're gonna have to be patient. But next month, we're gonna double that number. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear that? I said double.
It was a supplier's market. Laemmle didn't have to sell. Theaters just took whatever he had. But it didn't take long for others to realize what was happening. Hundreds of production companies started arriving, wanting a piece of the action. Well, most of them you've probably never heard of. Christie Films, American Films, Clune, Ince. Hollywood became like a gold rush town. Wooden studios were thrown up for next to nothing. All you needed was a camera and some film stock, and you could make a picture. Hollywood had gone from dusty little hamlet into bustling film town, which was a nightmare for me. When I first moved my operations to Hollywood, there was almost no one else here. But now, I was completely surrounded by competition and in danger of being swallowed up. My only hope for survival was to try and stand out from the crowd by making features. But that was not going well.
Cut. Surely the whole point of the scene is that Juliet is trying to get Charles to believe in fairies. Yes?
I was trying to make features of plays. A good idea in theory, but in practice, a disaster.
Charles, you mock me for my beliefs, yet I assure you that these fairies are more alive than you.
Mary Pickford was constantly arguing with the director, frustrated that these plays, which were full of dialogue, weren't translating into film, which had no sound.
Charles, you mock me for my beliefs, yet I assure you that these fairies are more alive than you.
But if making features was hard, trying to sell them was close to impossible.
Oh, so it's a play.
No, it's not a play. It's a film of a play. It's 90 minutes long.
Why?
Why? Well, because that's the length of the play. Operator? Operator.
So far, I've made 3 features, all of them based on plays.
Hello, operator. Can you get me West Coast theaters? Thank you.
And all of them unsold.
Hi, this is Mr. Zucker from Famous Players and Famous Plays.
Nobody wanted features because they were too long. Theaters could pack more people in watching short films.
So then we'd have to charge more for a feature that nobody wants. Why would we do that?
Yeah, but it has Mary Pickford, the girl with the curls.
Oh yeah, she made some good pictures once. Short ones.
Oh, I tried to keep Mary away from all the business problems. I never told her we were sinking fast. I wasn't even sure if I could pay next month's wages. Turns out, it was Mary who had the solution to all our problems.
What are you reading?
Tess of the Storm Country.
What's it about?
It's a story about 2 young women, both unmarried. One is wealthy and the other is poor. And the wealthy woman has an affair, and she gets pregnant. So she has to have the baby in secret, but causes a torturous dilemma. She either keeps the baby, but then she's cast out of society, her life is over. Or if she abandons the baby, she may never forgive herself.
Mary had found a story that resonated with her deeply.
So what happens?
Well, the poor woman agrees to raise the baby as her own. She loses her boyfriend. She almost loses her house. But ultimately, her decision changes society. And in the end, the baby is restored to the original mother.
Interesting.
We should turn it into a feature.
A feature. Not of a play, but of a novel. Something I'd never thought of before.
Who's going to write it?
So, I rolled the dice one last time on doing something new again. And Mary became a writer as well as an actress. It was crazy. I mean, this was a time when women were lucky if they got to be secretary. A job they'd be expected to give up once they got married. But here in Hollywood, anything was possible.
It's good. Action!
No. No. I want the camera here because I want to end in a close-up.
Another thing about Mary, she instinctively knew how to tell a story using the visual medium of film, and pretty much ended up directing the picture herself. When the film was finished, I showed it to just a few people first, like Mary and Jesse Lasky, who I'd grown close to since coming out west. He was a fellow film producer, and I respected his opinion as much as Mary's. At that stage, all I was thinking was if I could just break even, we could get to make another feature.
Here we go.
I struggled to watch the movie. All of my attention was on the audience. Would they walk out after 20 minutes? Would they lose interest after 40 minutes? Will they fall asleep after 60 minutes? And then, something strange happened. The audience was getting emotional. I mean, they were actually moved by what they were seeing on the screen. I'd never seen anything like it before. They were completely caught up in the story, but also Mary's acting. You see, audiences were used to seeing big, histrionic acting. But Mary's acting was small and subtle, and it looked real. Mary had done something that no other actor had done before. She had reached inside them and grabbed their heart and wouldn't let go. Something grabbed me too. This was the art form that I thought moving pictures could be. And it was something only possible with a feature.
It's good. It's really good.
Mary was right, but I still had a big problem.
Well done. That is the best picture I've ever seen.
It is good, but it's still a feature. How can I persuade theaters to take it? I can invite every theater owner in the country to come and see it first.
And that's when my friend Jesse Lasky said something that would change my life forever.
There is someone based in Utah who might take it.
Yeah, I know. Utah. Not exactly where you thought this story about Hollywood was going to go. But you see, there was this guy based out of Utah named William Hodgkinson who had a film exchange. His house apparently looked out on a snow-capped mountain. Now, one day, he decided it would make a good logo for his company. Then he gave his company an important-sounding name. Paramount.
It is a good picture. Yes, we're pleased with it.
Hodgkinson was prepared to sell Tess of the Storm Country, but then he told me the commission Paramount were charging.
14%.
No. 40. 40.
This guy wanted to take almost half the profits. But what could I do? He was the only one prepared to sell features. So I signed the deal with Paramount Pictures. I'd arranged a big opening night for Tess of the Storm Country, and I got as many reporters as possible to come by, telling them this picture was gonna change everything, and that Mary Pickford's performance was like nothing else. So there was a lot of attention on Mary, but she seemed to take it all in stride. I also invited Laemmle, the guy who turned down my feature idea a few years earlier. I suppose it was a kind of, see, what did I tell you?
Congratulations. I was wrong. Always nice to see you, Mary.
It was my first taste of real success, but immediately I began to worry. There was something about Laemmle saying I was wrong. Well, you only ever admit a mistake if you're not gonna make that mistake again. But for the time being, I was on top of the world. The movie was a huge hit. One review called it a symphony of acting, story, photography, and production. Finally, I'd proven that features were the future of cinema. But my success only created more problems.
I'll keep this brief. I'd like to know why we're falling short of our targets. I asked for 20 features this year. I'll be lucky if I get 10.
Laemmle was already at work. He didn't care if he wasn't the first to make features. Universal was bigger and had more money. He could make bigger features. And so he did. Biblical epics, costume dramas. With Universal City, Laemmle was able to outproduce anyone. But he wasn't the only one looking to get into features. William Fox had shown the Mary Pickford feature at his Fox Theaters in New York. It didn't take him long to figure out that features were big business. Why show a bunch of short films that nobody cares about when you can show a feature everyone wants to see not just once, but again and again?
Fox will make better features than this.
I know you will.
After Fox defeated the trust, he and his wife believed it was his destiny to control the movie business. And to do that, he'd need to make his own features. he bought several small production companies in Hollywood and merged them into one, just off the ever-expanding Sunset Boulevard. Fox knew that to make features a success, he needed good material. But to compete with the likes of me and Laemmle, he needed to find a star. By 1915, most studios had caught on to the fact that it was the stars that drew in the crowds. Universal had an actress named Mary Fuller. Lasky Studio was having success with a guy named Dustin Farnham. And over at Keystone Studios, a young comedian named Charlie Chaplin was starting to turn heads. But no one was as big a star as Mary Pickford. After Tess of the Storm Country, I quickly put out more features, and all of them were box office hits. Mary Pickford was now the most famous woman in America, and the most recognizable.
Hello, gentlemen.
And this level of fame was such a new phenomenon that it wasn't uncommon for the press to show up at Mary's home. And she was happy to play the host.
What's it like being famous?
Well, I guess I haven't had much time to think about it. I'm too busy making you guys tea.
There were no such people as publicists or any security for that matter. That's just the way it was. Of course, she had no idea what this fame would bring. Nobody did.
What's your next picture?
Well, we have something in the works right now. It's very big, but I can't speak on it. So you'll have to wait, I'm sorry.
Hello, Mary.
Owen.
Is this your husband?
Yes, it is.
Oh, can we take a photograph? Yeah.
Sure.
Owen Moore, the estranged husband that Mary had run away from, was back. And that's when the fairy tale came to an end.
So it's true. She is married.
I think she was trying to keep that quiet.
Have you heard the other rumors going around town?
What rumors?
A couple of studios have offered her big money to join them. And I hear Universal's making a bid.
It was in that moment that I realized everything I built was about to fall apart. And I should have seen it coming. Hollywood was changing quickly. By 1915, the population had more than doubled what it was just 4 years earlier. And the town was overflowing with studios, and everyone was scooping up bankable stars. The larger studios were willing to do whatever it took to get one. Remember Charlie Chaplin? Well, in no time, audiences had fallen in love with his tramp character. And when his contract came up, there was a bidding war. The winner got him for $500,000 a year, making him the highest paid person in America. There was no way I could pay Mary Pickford that sort of money. And that's because of Hodkinson. I was making Paramount a ton of money, and he was still demanding half the profits.
You've been selling so many. How about 20%?
Mr. Zucker, we took the risk on your features, and you agreed to the terms.
is very reasonable.
It was useless. Hodgkinson wasn't gonna budge. I couldn't sleep. The rumors were rife. The press were saying that without Mary, I was nothing. The sharks were circling. But I had a choice. I could get eaten, or I could become a shark. But that meant I'd have to get big and fast.
So I've been thinking. We should join forces. The bigger we are, the less likely we'll be swallowed up.
What, so we're one company?
Yeah. Famous Players Lasky.
You don't want your name in it too?
No. Nobody knows how to pronounce Zucker.
You see, Lasky was making more pictures than me and was distributing them through Paramount. So, if we merged, that gave me more clout. I also bought some stock in Paramount, just enough to give me a seat on the board. And then I just waited for the right time to meet with some of the members.
The same again, please, all around. I know you two have daughters. So I want to let you in on a little secret. Thank you. Mary's signing a new contract with me. I'm giving her more say over the production of pictures. It'll cost me a little bit more, but I figure she's worth it, right?
It was a lot of bull. I hadn't even mentioned anything to Mary.
So, here's the problem. Paramount's charging me 40% commission. Now, my math isn't great, but I know that's nearly half, right? And that's money I could use to make a lot more Pickford films, and we could all be a lot richer. For that to happen, Hodgkinson has to go. Because if he stays as president, I am done. I'll be taking all Famous Players Lasky pictures elsewhere.
It was like playing poker. You have to pick the right moment to show your hand.
Hodgkinson was still on vacation when the other board members voted him off as president. When he found out, he was so angry he sold all his stocks and quit.
So who is now president of Paramount? Of course, it's you. And what happens if they do the same to you?
That's not gonna happen.
I renegotiated the terms of my deal with Paramount. With the extra cash, I bought the other board members out. Now, I owned Paramount.
So I hear you're taking meetings with Mutual and a few others?
No, just mutual.
So is it true? They've offered you $500,000 a year?
No, it's not true. They offered me $1 million.
Well, I can't match that. But I can offer you $500,000 a year. And I'll even let you produce your own pictures. You can pick what you want to make, who directs it, who writes it.
It's a deal. I was never going to leave.
I know.
And that was the thing with us. We were like two poker players who had to win, but we also understood each other. Not long after, I would change the name of my production company from Famous Players Lasky to Paramount Pictures. We moved to a much larger place to make bigger and better pictures. It wasn't quite the size of Laemmle's Universal City, but it was a big step up from a barn. And that's when I became a target.
Look straight into the camera. Much more upright. Remember, you're the queen.
All this time, Fox had been looking for a star to rival Mary Pickford. And finally, he'd found her. Or, to be more accurate, he'd created her.
Her mother was a Russian princess. Her father, an Arabian prince. Her name is Theda Bara, and she's going to be my Cleopatra.
It was all bull. Her real name was Theodosia Goodman, and she was from Ohio. Fox was smart. If Mary was America's sweetheart, he could make Theda Bara America's seductress. Fox had hit upon something that none of us had thought about before. Sex sells. Cleopatra was a box office hit and made Theda Bara an overnight star. And Fox Studios was now a major player in Hollywood.
Operator, get me New York.
There was such a demand for features that even the Warner Brothers were trying to get back into the business.
Harry Warner, please.
Hello?
Harry, it's Sam. I got this book. It's great. It's got everything.
Whoa, Sam, what are you talking about? What book?
It's called My 4 Years in Germany by this ambassador.
You see, after their first attempt to make movies ended in disaster, the Warners went home and borrowed $400 from their parents to make a fresh start in Hollywood. And that's when Sam had his idea.
Harry, this could be our big chance. Harry?
Okay.
Oh, okay?
Okay. Let's do it.
Back then, if you were starting out and had no money, you had your studio in a place called Poverty Row. It was a far cry from the grandeur of Universal City, but the Warner Brothers didn't care. They were making a movie again.
Oh, I'm sure you've had a lot of interest. It's a great book.
No more than 2,000.
Well, we're not a large company, sir, but that's good because you'll get the personal touch. No. Yes, my brother Harry is actually near Washington. He'd be happy to see you. Yes, you too. Goodbye.
Here we go, boys.
Bottom line, fellas. This is gonna be good now.
You can imagine, Harry was a bit nervous. I mean, he'd been through this before. But the movie was actually pretty good. And that's after the brothers ran out of money halfway through filming and had to insert news footage to cover the holes. But that actually made the film look even bigger. The movie was a hit. And once they paid off their debt, they made a profit of over $100,000. The Warners were on their way. It was good timing, too. Because by the end of 1918, the world was desperate for more movies. The the war in Europe was finally winding down after 4 brutal, bloody years. Millions of soldiers were returning home, needing something to take their minds off what they'd been through. Movies were the perfect medicine. And since the large European film companies were still rebuilding, Hollywood continued to dominate the global market. With the demand for films at an all-time high, I wanted to capitalize on the moment and ensure that most of those pictures were Paramount's.
So, I've been thinking. We're gonna make 52 features a year.
Why 52?
That way, theaters will show 1 Paramount feature a week. They won't have to show anybody else's features, or shorts for that matter.
How do you know you'll be able to sell them all? I mean, some of them will be good and others not so good.
Because it'll be all or nothing.
I had my sales force tell theaters if they wanted the Mary Pickford features, they had to buy all the Paramount features. It was a method called block booking, and theaters hated it. But what could they do? I had all the cards. Making 52 features a year wasn't easy, but selling them was. The thing was, that business model was based on Mary Pickford, America's sweetheart. And Mary had been living up to the image, pretending that everything was perfect, including her marriage.
Sorry, guys. Mary's not feeling well. I think she picked up some stomach bug.
It was the one mistake in her life. I mean, she was just a kid when she married him, and it was going to haunt her for the rest of her life. What could she do? Divorce him? That would end her career. Back then, divorcing was on a par with worshiping Satan. I had no idea about Mary's troubles then. I was too busy trying to poach stars from other companies.
So there'll be 3 pictures.
My latest acquisition was an athletic leading man with loads of charisma.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, don't worry about it. Please, sit. Mary, meet our latest addition, Douglas Fairbanks.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Fairbanks. Sorry about the dark glasses. I have terrible hay fever.
The honor's all mine. I can't believe I shook hands with the greatest actress ever.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I've seen every single one of your pictures, not once, but twice. And my kids, they can't get enough of you. They saw Cinderella about 5 or 6 times.
You're very kind. Thank you.
In an era where celebrity was a brand new phenomenon, Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks were both movie stars, so they had a lot in common. This would turn out to be the meeting that changed everything. Two things worth knowing about Douglas Fairbanks. He's married with a kid, and he's the best friend of Charlie Chaplin. Mary, Fairbanks, and Chaplin were probably the only 3 people in the whole world who understood the pressures of that level of fame. To have your life on display for millions, to have no amount of privacy, to be revered by adoring fans. Like this guy, arguably the biggest movie fan in Hollywood. One day, he'd be running the biggest studio in Hollywood, too. But at this point, He was just a man following a dream. His name, Louis B. Mayer. Mayer came to America as a young boy from Russia. Mayer's father was a scrap metal merchant who forced Mayer to leave school at 12 and taught him how to argue with his fists. But he had a close relationship with his mother, who believed in him. Mayer left home and became a scrap metal merchant himself, but his business went bust. The only job he could find was an odd job man and a cleaner in a movie theater. Mayer was hooked by the movies. They showed a different world, a fantasy of what his childhood could have been like. Mayer borrowed money and converted an old theater into a movie theater. It was so successful, he opened an even bigger one. After his mother died, Mayer decided to move to Hollywood.
Hello.
Now, to make the best features, Mayer wanted stars. Stars like Mary Pickford, Fairbanks, or Chaplin.
It's English tea.
But he couldn't afford them. So he did the next best thing.
I've got the perfect role for you. It's a picture about a woman who's just got married to this businessman. But once their honeymoon is over, her husband goes back to his business and he neglects her. So she decides to make him jealous.
So Mayer signed up an actress named Mildred Harris, who happened to be the estranged wife of Charlie Chaplin. Mayer's first feature was low budget compared to a Paramount or a Universal feature, but he still managed to sell it. You see, when it came to publicizing the feature, he didn't call his lead actress Mildred Harris. He called her Mildred Harris Chaplin, though the name Harris was in small print and the name Chaplin was in large print. And that was enough to get the movie sold. That guy right there is none other than Charlie Chaplin. Yeah, I know, looks a little different without the hat and the mustache.
You think you can use my name to sell your stinking pictures?
I don't want any trouble.
You're a cheapskate. A parvenu.
Hey, I'm talking to you, you son of a bitch!
Now that might seem like a common insult, but to Mayer, son of a bitch was an insult to his beloved mother.
You will never work in this town again!
Mayer thought he was finished. You don't hit the biggest star in Hollywood and get away with it. Or maybe you could. You see, stars had all the wealth and fame, but not much power. And they were becoming fair game for the press, who discovered that stories about stars sold papers. That didn't bother me, unless, of course, it affected my business.
Yeah. I read your article. Interesting. Well written. If you print another story like that, I'll take your typewriter and break it over your head. Got it? Good.
Look, I knew Mary was in a rough spot, but she had an image to uphold. She was America's sweetheart, the girl with the curls. If the public found out that she was having an affair with Fairbanks, it would ruin her career and mine. Something had to be done.
That Western you're planning with Fairbanks? I want you to make it in Utah.
You sent Douglas to Utah?
To make a picture there, yes.
You could have asked me first.
Like it was getting out of hand. I had to do something.
Does it always have to be about business for you?
I was looking out for your own good.
You're not my father.
Come on, spit it out.
If I divorce Owen, then my career is over. And if I stay with him, my life's over, and there's nothing I can do.
I know how you feel. The other day, I was punched by this oaf, a would-be mogul called Mayor, a nobody. And there's nothing I can do.
They stand on our shoulders.
Who?
People like Mayor, Zook, or Laemmle, they're nothing without us. And yet they have all the power. We should create our own studio.
I don't have a clue about business.
I do.
Really?
Back then, a woman saying she knew about business was like saying she was really a man in drag.
Are we ready? Okay, roll camera.
Mary Pickford, Charlie Chaplin, and Douglas Fairbanks stunned the world by forming their own studio. A studio run by stars, and they called it United Artists. Mary pretended it was the guys running the business, but it was all her. She was the brains behind it all. People like me and Laemmle have been using stars to grow our empires. Now they become the competition. And that was just the beginning. Stars had so much power, they could do anything.
We'll make the movies, sell the movies, and we'll show the movies. 600 theaters.
With Mary gone, I would have to take drastic measures to keep Paramount competitive.
I'm gonna need $10 million.
While my rivals would have their own problems.
The studio is in disarray. It's chaos. It's incredible that any features get made at all.
40%. You could take that and you can ram it where the sun don't shine.
And new competition was growing stronger.
He wants me to run 2 other companies.
So what are you gonna name the new studio?
MGM.
She could be the next Mary Pickford.
We should sign her.
In my mind, there was only one way to stay on top.
Do whatever it takes. Just get her.
What happened next threatened to destroy everything.
These stars get paid too much. They think they could do anything.
How did we get to this?